Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome, y'all. Big news, big news. So apparently Brett Taylor is joining the Shopify board of directors today. This is big news. Who is Brett Taylor? He is an American computer programmer and entrepreneur from Stanford University. Will there be a part 3 with Luke Belmar? Yeah, for sure. There definitely will be. So we're going to watch this today. We're going to watch the latest Shopify news. So if you haven't heard, today they just announced that Brett Taylor is going to be joining the Shopify board of directors. And I want to explore how this is going to affect Shopify sellers, Shopify as a company overall. Now, who is Brett Taylor? Well, Brett Taylor is an entrepreneur who is mostly known, honestly, I don't really know for what, but I know that this guy's a beast because a lot of other people I know are very excited about this. Not sure what this is going to entail, and that's hopefully what this video will clarify more or less. I'm not entirely sure if we'll watch the whole thing. We probably will, but I think we'll learn a lot. Obviously, Toby Lütke is an incredible entrepreneur as well. He's the founder of Shopify and CEO. And Brett Taylor is now joining the board of directors, which is a good thing for Shopify apparently. And you and I probably do a lot of stuff related to Shopify. Of course, you already know I do. So we'll be exploring this, and then we'll explore some other stuff later after it on the stream. We'll, explore some product research. We'll potentially talk about random things. I'll try to get some work done while we watch this as well, because I do gotta get some work done. But I figured I really want to watch this. I want to see what this is all about. So I figured I would stream it. And this is actually an episode from Shopify's internal podcast. I didn't know they had an internal podcast, so that's also interesting news to me. And, hopefully it's good. Hi from Ukraine. Hi, Nikita. Okay, so we got 45 viewers live right now. That's amazing. Let's start watching this. Let me pause this music. I'm also going to be exploring Blackbox today. A lot of you guys probably don't know what Blackbox is, but it's an Amazon product research tool. And oh damn, I'm actually out of searches. So we may do that later. I really want to get to know how to use this tool better. For now, it's okay though. We'll maybe just go through Trend Rocket a little bit. Maybe through Shop Hunter a little bit. That will be good. We'll keep going with this. Hi from Jersey. Wow, all the way out in Jersey. That's crazy. Did you guys watch my video from today? It's a 1 out of 10, so a lot of people seem to really love it. So many NPCs in your Discord? Are you talking about the same Discord? Because our Discord is pretty amazing. Let me pause my Slack notifications. I'll also put this up here. I want to go through some of the stuff on here as well. You know, just explore some more stuff. Today I dropped a product research video that a lot of people seem to like. So that just tells me, of course, people are very interested in product research. That's no news to me, but for some reason I've neglected that for the longest time, and no more. This just shows me that you guys are very much interested in product research. And you know, that's kind of the thing, is product research is essential. It's something I like to continuously stay on top of as well for our own internal projects. We're always building new stuff. I love building brands. Lately what I do a lot is I build mock-ups of ideas and then I send them to my team and I'm like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Should we test this? So if you like to do the same, if you like to build mock-ups of brand ideas, use the link in the description to start your Shopify store trial. And then you get $1 a month for 90 days. It's insane. So I just started a new store yesterday to create a new mock-up for an idea I have for a brand. And I'm going to be charged the full Shopify plan, which is now $39 a month in September, which is crazy. So I'm just going to pay $1 a month until September. That's wild. That gives us so much time to actually make sales and actually make the money back that the plan would cost. Okay, so let's get right into it. Let's not waste any more time. You know, we got enough people in here. I want to check out what this is all about.
Welcome everyone. This is like a super fun conversation. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I want to introduce you to Brett Taylor, who is I have a pleasure of welcoming to the Shopify board of directors. So that makes you basically my boss. I hope this is gonna go well. Welcome, Brett. So good to have you.
I'm really excited to join the Shopify board. We've known each other for a long time. You joke about the technical topics, but I think the first time we met each other, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think we both surprised each other with how geeky both of us were. And anyway, I've always loved working with you, and to have the opportunity to work with Shopify is amazing. So really excited.
That's so great. I mean, you and I are definitely technologists in background, and I think that became pretty clear. But in the context, I think where we met, this was one of those like places where people actually unironically wear suits, and at these events, I have to confess, I always feel like three squirrels in a trench coat. So when you have that conversation and it goes to the next level, the next layer, the next layer, the next layer, that is delightful and unexpected, and I think we instantly bonded over that.
Before we continue, I was muted so that you don't hear the static from my room and we can just talk or hear these guys out. I'm curious, are you guys invested in Shopify? So type a 1 in the chat if you have Shopify stock, and type 2 in the chat if you have a Shopify store. And if you have both, then type both. I'm very curious to see if you guys are investing in Shopify or if you are building a Shopify store. Just curious, because obviously this is the CEO and Shopify and founder of Shopify right here. You may not know him. His name is Toby Lütke. He is, I think, Latvian. I could be wrong about that. So we got some 2s, 1 and 2s, quick 1-2 combos. Mostly 2s though. Yeah, I'm a 2 as well. I did have Shopify stock up until earlier this year, and I did sell it because I wanted to move out of Robinhood. I shouldn't have done that though, but it is what it is. You live and you learn. Okay, so lots of twos. All right, let's continue here then.
I don't know what we talked about, but might have been anything.
And I also thought because it was so unexpected, it made it all the better. So I loved it.
So I guess where I would love to start is like you are you're in Silicon Valley. You didn't grow up there, I think, but like you have been with, you know, at the most exciting times, you know, or at very exciting times of these companies' histories, with Google, with Facebook, with Salesforce, in one of the most exciting times imaginable, in not sure in a good way, at Twitter, and of course, you know, co-CEO of Salesforce, and you know, but also like a series of fantastic startups. It's just like how.
So this guy was the CEO of Salesforce and a part of the board, or like high up executives at some of these major companies like Twitter. Wow, that's actually interesting. We'll see. This is very interesting insight. I'm excited to see what we learn. This is literally like Stanford level education right here, and it's all for free on Twitter. So pretty awesome.
How did you line that up? How did you set up that story? Can you sort of connect the dots a little bit and take us through this?
Sure, I'll give you the cliff notes of the history, and I'll describe. I'm not sure it was quite so intentional, so I'll connect the dots.
Right.
But there's some maybe life philosophy that has guided it. So I was a computer scientist at Stanford. Almost went into the PhD program, left with a master's degree. At the time, it was right after the dot-com bubble had burst, and so academia felt slightly appealing. But a teaching assistant of mine had gone to work for Google named Marissa Mayer, who ended up running sort of the consumer product group there, but also became the CEO of Yahoo eventually. But she could not stop raving about how special this company Google was. And I ended up going there not as an engineer, but as a product manager. The amusing part, and no joke, I interviewed for the role, and even by the end of the interview process, I had no idea what a product manager was, because everyone you asked gave a different answer. You know, I joked with someone recently that, you know, you ask a product manager, they perceive themselves as in charge of anything. You ask an engineer, and they perceive perhaps the opposite. And it was just really funny, but I ended up taking a bit of a leap of faith. It was the only role that I was interviewing for that wasn't an engineering role. And just followed Marissa, actually, just because I admired her and I loved the product that was Google. I loved the space that it was in. I don't know if this is technically Sheryl Sandberg's quote, but I think of her associated with it, which is, if someone offers you a seat on a rocket ship, don't ask what seat. And I sort of subconsciously followed that advice at that moment, just thinking, I love Google, the company. I think Marissa's someone I looked up to. I'm just going to go and hopefully figure out what this product management thing actually is. I followed similar, I don't want to say, it definitely wasn't impulsive through my career, but I'm very open-minded to new experiences. So I actually, you know, came to Salesforce via the acquisition of my last startup, Quip. And yeah.
What? I didn't know Quip was this guy's startup. That's crazy. Quip, if you guys don't know, is a huge e-commerce company that, I think this is the one, maybe actually not, but these guys are totally killing it. I mean, look at this. Okay, 500,000 monthly visitors. That's a great, like, that's a large amount, but they're also in basically every Target in the whole entire country and in a whole bunch of other stores. So that's really interesting. Not sure if this is the Quip he's talking about or this Quip. Either way, I don't know. Probably this one. This is for like sales teams. But this one's even bigger. 3.7 million monthly visitors. That's wild. That's pretty cool. But yeah, that's really interesting. We're getting to, this is an interview of some like really high level entrepreneurs. So hopefully you guys are not too bored. I know that maybe it's not like the most exciting thing to listen to, but trust me, this is educational stuff that people pay $50K a year to go to Stanford and hear talks like this. So don't take it for granted. Now let me show you. I actually want to see what the Shopify stock is at before we continue. So it was up today. I'm guessing tomorrow it's going to go up even more due to these news of this guy coming in on the board of directors. He's, had experience at Google, at some of the biggest startups in the world. And yeah, I mean, Shopify it's starting to make a comeback. Look at this. So from a high of 169, all the way up here. Most of your viewers are beginners. Yeah, I mean, that's true, but like, how else are you gonna how do you level up if you're not willing to educate yourself and learn from some of the greats, right? Do you always want to be a beginner? Probably not. I certainly don't. So don't worry, just listen, man. But yeah, this is pretty good. I mean, look at how crazy this run was. And then it crashed all the way down to 26, like 80% drop, 90% almost. And now it's back up to 60. That's pretty great. That's almost a 3x from the bottom. That's really good. So yes, for those of you that didn't know there's Shopify stock, there is. And you can buy it. It's a publicly traded company. So check it out. I definitely like to talk about stocks. I definitely think investing is a big part of building wealth. To me, it's like the only true passive income is buying stocks and then just holding them. Anything else is not really passive income. But yeah. So somebody asked, what tool are you using to check analytics of websites? Content is great. I'm just experimenting with a store. I use a tool called SimilarWeb and then Shop Hunter. That's the other one I use, but SimilarWeb is the main one. So yeah. Yeah, I did sell Shopify stock because I didn't want to hold anything on Robinhood anymore. So I just sold it. It was a big blunder, but it is what it is. I would have made like an extra 4K if I would have just held it. So that would have been nice, but yeah. Sign up to the Akemi Lab, guys. Let me recover my 4K.
Yeah, I'm friends with a lot of entrepreneurs, as you are, and Shopify is a company that serves entrepreneurs. So being an entrepreneur is a big part of my identity, and I think everyone who knew me just presumed I would be there for a couple of years and leave, because that's what entrepreneurs do. But I was more open-minded than I think a lot of people thought I was, and I grew a lot of affection for the company and the mission, and in a very different way, it serves an ecosystem that's really broad and in ways I grew to really deeply admire, and I ended up staying for almost 7 years and becoming co-CEO. And so I think if there's something that characterizes it, is I'm very comfortable wearing different hats, and also very open-minded to experiences, and I'm really driven by impact, and I think impact can take different shapes at different times in my life, but I'm just a big believer in not having rigid thinking and seeking out truth. And the thing that I've really worked at is not being so rigid in my own personal identity, because I think that can be really limiting. If you have a conception of yourself that is one thing, I think you implicitly close yourself off to new experiences, new ideas. And I've kind of gone between technical roles, non-technical roles. I've unironically worn suits at times over the past 7 years.
That's actually a really good insight, and it goes along with what I was saying. That's why I'm watching this interview. I don't want to tie myself to an identity. I don't want to be a drop shipper, and like that's it. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to learn. I want to reach some of these founders of incredible companies. I want to be able to network with some of the best entrepreneurs in the world. I want to meet up with investors, with venture capitalists. I agree. I think it's good to not tie yourself down to an identity. And a lot of people, like you said, are in my audience are beginners and most likely like drop shippers, and that's what they watch my content for. But unfortunately, I'm evolving as an entrepreneur, and I still like to drop ship, but it's not something I want to tie my identity to. So let's continue though.
And so it's been great. There's a bunch of stuff in between I'm sure we could talk about, but that's kind of the Cliff Notes version. I think I'm pretty open-minded to who I am and to new opportunities.
It's remarkable. And by the way, we could basically like shut it down right here, and there's enough material for like keep the identity small and be open for everything. If we had walls in offices, we would put it on all the walls. I could not agree more. There's a funny like I can talk a lot about like hiring people rather than trying to fill roles. And like in all the best cases, this is exactly what you do. But like it's actually hard to track down the people who are up for this kind of thing. It goes against a little bit against society's narrative, doesn't it? Right? Like, and I wonder, like I certainly have seen this in a sort of group. Maybe clustered a little bit around my age. I wonder if there's something like in sort of a like early 80s, end of 70s time period that caused people to see so much like change during in the 90s of computing and so on. That maybe everyone kind of did everything and really proved out this sort of like full stack kind of people call it. I don't have a good mental framework for what I'm talking about here, but I'm just really deeply curious about what makes some people choose to interview for literally the opposite of what they just kind of studied for, and then some people just trying to like sort of see a career as sort of a game that other people define, and then you join and you try to sort of excel in it. And do you have any thoughts about this?
I do. It's interesting. There's a few friends I have that are study innovation, like Patrick Collison has researched this a lot. And I'm not an expert in it, but one of the things that I've heard, and it might be an anecdote, but I think there's some research behind it, is that research is so increasingly specialized now that, to publish papers and to, get tenure, you end up so deep narrowly that it really closes the door to a lot of scientific breakthroughs that could happen. There's sort of the cross-pollination of different disciplines that used to be more commonplace. Bringing that back to the question you asked, is I do think as companies grow, implicitly organizational structures punish generalists. It's the idea that, you start off with an engineering team, and when you were selling snowboards, you made the whole stack, right? From top to bottom. And then over time, you have an infrastructure team, and you have maybe a front end team, and the engineer that masqueraded as designer, it's no longer, socially acceptable to do the design anymore. That's someone else's job. And you end up, kind of going into swim lanes. Even same is true on go-to-market teams and other things. It makes sense because it's really, you're creating a system that scales, and so when you do that, you tend to think of, all these functions as sort of literally that. Functions that take in inputs and produce outputs, and to scale things, you tend to have specialties. And I think it's, for people who either are generalists or would naturally be generalists, the most natural thing in those environments is to specialize, because that's how you further your career. But I do think of all most great products, I'll just take Google Maps, one of the ones I worked on. It was a really good user experience. I think, it used at the time, dynamically rendering images was really expensive. So most maps looked really, really ugly, but we really wanted them to look like A to Z maps from the UK with, road names written inside the roads, even if it was curved. We wanted really good anti-aliasing, and we worked all this technical infrastructure to make that work. We wanted the maps to be draggable, and we were crashing the browser left and right because no one had really done anything interactive. And it was this really vertically integrated set of innovation. Like, you had to have a vision for the user experience. You had to understand, like pretty deep technical things, both in the browser and even at sort of the kind of networking layer to make it work with sort of the low bandwidth connections that were typical back then. And I just don't think you would have had it if everyone was in their swim lane and didn't have the whole vision. So I think it's a really big challenge for innovation in larger organizations, is just how you scale and how you do that through specialization, but you don't extinguish, I think, the natural kind of vision and innovation that comes from people who can put on many hats, and I think that's going to require for a lot of innovation. And it's just interesting you see this in society as well. That's why when I read that sort of Cliff's Notes version of that paper on innovation and specialization, it resonated with me because I saw whispers of that or echoes of that in a lot of the organizations that I've scaled through my career.
Yeah, it's it's a fascinating thing. I'm curious if any companies. I mean, we certainly have a lot of experimentation around it, but like I don't think we've cracked the code on it. Like I wonder if you are aware of any kind of organizational structures or places that have sort of leaned into the generalism thing. Anything that we can learn from them, because I certainly have seen like really world-class teams be a mix of generalists and specialists, but also have mutual appreciation for each other. Because, I mean, one thing I like, all generalists underestimate how deep the expertise of specialists actually is. But I think all specialists also underestimate how wide the range of generalists goes, right? Like because the Pareto principle works in your favor, you can get to 80% of any field and actually probably less time than 20% of the time. So it's, when there's a mutual appreciation and a mix of it, I think I've seen magic happens. It's funny because it seems like there's very little organizational theory around how to tap into that.
There is, a couple of thoughts there. I've thought so much about this because, fundamentally, when you're scaling a technology company, your job is to consistently produce innovation, because the reason Shopify exists is because you had a vision for, this is my words, not yours, but like an integrated commerce stack that could really run a business like end to end, and you saw that through your personal experience when you're selling snowboards and you built the thing to.
Yeah, actually, Satyam is right here. E-commerce is a pretty broad word. I mean, where this is such stupid, like it's just like details, but it's interesting. E-commerce is just commercial transactions conducted electronically on the internet. So technically speaking, like basically every internet company is an e-commerce company. So that's kind of interesting. You learn something new every day.
To scratch that itch, and it was true innovation. And how do you produce a company that like outputs that? There's a paper by a professor named Coase called The Theory of the Firm. And it was basically like, why do companies exist? In theory, you shouldn't have like large conglomerates, let alone, companies that just grow in arbitrary size and complexity. Again, my Cliff's Notes version of this is the reason they exist is transaction costs. If you and I want to do something together, we probably need a contract to do it. I guess not now that I'm on the board, but you know what I mean. Whereas inside of a company, things like allocating new servers or, even, having a designer work on something or producing a new presentation for a customer, there's no transaction costs if you set up a firm correctly. So in theory, if firms can scale output and reduce transaction costs, which, give them an advantage over just a free market equivalent of that. In practice, I think companies often don't think about transaction costs they introduce themselves. The classic thing is that every time something wrong happens, you make a process so that never happens again. And you fast forward 10 years and all of a sudden,
baby proofing, yep.
Cascading layers of processes. And unless you're, an anthropologist of Shopify, you have no idea why they exist anymore. And I think that, when you think about like building an organization that produces innovation, I think it requires, you've always been very intentional about how you grow Shopify, but that intentionality where almost like my youngest asking why all the time, why? And it can be annoying to have that first principles thinking, but I think it is also, without it, it's the only safeguard against the natural kind of friction companies introduce. I think the economic rationale is simply that if you let companies accrue friction as they are prone to through inertia, you're essentially reducing the reason why the company exists in the first place. And we should all just go be entrepreneurs and set up services. The other thing that I read that was really interesting, and I don't know what is folklore and real, is when Jeff Bezos sent out a memo in the early 2000s at Amazon saying everything is an API. And if you look at it through the lens of Coase's theory on the theory of the firm, it's essentially, mandating reduced friction between teams.
This is definitely too advanced for probably all of us here, but hey, this guy's a Stanford graduate. Toby Lütke is the CEO and founder of Shopify. He's literally a fucking billionaire. So just listen up, all right? I'm trying to learn here.
And I think if you do that in sort of the theoretical case and the practice is always harder than the theory, you can end up in a world where smaller teams, and in Amazon terms, 2 pizza box teams, can have kind of the autonomy and agency with the sort of value that you get from a larger firm. And it's always easier said than done. And I've, despite having all these thoughts, it's like I've failed at this many times, and it's really hard, which is why there are not many companies of like the scale and stature of Shopify. But I think it's always really important to think about constantly. Be very self-critical, I think, about these things, and not presume that the processes you have in place are correct. And more often than not, they're not.
Yeah, trust me. Shopify is definitely one of those companies which, when we get 98% on a test, everyone asks what will happen to the last 2%. But I think, but we kind of have to.
I feel like that's how my dad was always. I'd be like, oh, I got, a 90%. And he'd be like, oh, so like, why didn't you get a, 100%? It's like, okay, bro. Shouldn't have said anything.
So, right, like it's so interesting because we are talking about like, the thing we're circling around is like we have seen this magic, like we've seen this work, and we are fully enabled and fully in charge, and have been in many parts of our careers, and we kind of can't bottle it fully up and roll it out. And it just goes back to, like, I'm pretty sure we are all going to be terribly embarrassed about the companies we ran in the early 2020s, like at the end of our careers. And I think like the best, like if there's sort of a platonic ideal of the perfect firm where like everyone trusts each other and internal transaction cost is absolutely minimal or non-existent, and everyone's organized in such ways that autonomy and autonomy is almost total, and accountability is completely mechanized and automatic.
Yeah, somebody said a bar just now in the chat. You do not need to be smart to become rich. That is so true, and I think a lot of rich people get a lot of credit for being smart. Like, people treat rich people as if they were all geniuses, but a lot of times, bro, like, people just get lucky. It's just how it is. Like, good timing, just like right place at the right time. People just get lucky in this world sometimes, and it has nothing to do with smarts. So that should tell you, if you are a smart person and you haven't made it to where you want to be yet, that should be so motivating, just knowing that people that are so much dumber than you are making so much money. It just is a testament to what you could accomplish and your potential. So, use that. But the Liquid Death guys, I mean, I think they've done something quite brilliant with that brand. So I think they're definitely killing it. And it definitely is a smart move, what they're doing. I've actually taken notes about it in one of the projects I want to work on. It's kind of similar, not water, but like I like this idea of taking really unique branding and applying it to a dull niche. I think that's pretty cool.
If that's a 10 out of 10, then I think the best company in the world right now is like a 4 out of 10. Maybe there's some.
I was going to say 3, but yeah, I think we're in the right.
Yeah, you're even a tougher judge, but it's going to look great. I think some companies are competing maybe for like entering the next kind of integer here, but like it's we're all very, very low on the scale, and it's going to round to it might as well be a logarithmic scale in the end of the day, and I think this is why. So my stated optimization target for building and running Shopify is that I would like to be slightly less embarrassed at the end of my career than all my contemporaries. So,
and actually, if there's an ironic kind of undertone to this, is I think Shopify is probably more than any other firm in the world reducing the transaction costs for businesses. Like, so ironically, like the competition for, like, if you just think of when I started my first company, we built our own servers, bought the parts, constructed them, drove them down to the, data center, plugged them in. When my next company, Amazon Web Services, existed, which was great. And now not only are there things like serverless computing, but there's, platforms like Shopify on top that would have been things that one would have had to build, ourselves. But there's also things like Rippling for HR and WeWork. I'm not sure if WeWork still exists, but WeWork for Office Space. And it is interesting that I think that, the innovation, particularly over the past 10 or 15 years, has just made it so much easier to start a company and transact and fulfill. And Shopify, is contributing to that. I think it's actually really good for the economy, as much as you and I, as software executives, worry about our own companies. Making it possible for small businesses to succeed is such an important thing for the world, and if the world is dominated by large firms, it's probably not a world any of us want to live in. And so I just think it's sort of interesting we're having this conversation about looking down, and if you look to some degree the Shopify mission is creating competition for these firms, which is great.
Because this is the wonderful thing, is that we get to the one technology that we don't have inside of companies is like a market, right? Like capitalism has its detractors and has like these days, and has is certainly not perfect around the margins, but like it's the best system we've ever come up with. And the thing it's brilliant at is deallocation of capital in bad ideas, right? Like this, unfortunately, this is always the first thing governments tend to backstop, and this is when we get into real problems. But it the high velocity and especially small scale, it's brilliant. It's the reason why our restaurants are getting so good. It's the reason why. This is why I love our space so deeply, because like we have millions of entrepreneurs putting themselves out there and building, because for basically irrational choices, right? Like this is the old, the age-old and wonderful. You're gonna spend 100 hours working for yourself, so you don't have to work for someone else for 40, kind of thing. Like it's a deeply irrational kind of idea, but some people must, and I think that's important. And they make things that then are delightful to everyone else.
I had a really impactful sort of early part of my career, so where I was reminded of.
This sounds like it's going to be a good lesson, so pay attention. Okay, he's talking about his early career. This dude is 42, so this is probably going to be very relevant to us right now. It's always good to listen to people that are older than you, I feel like, also, because they've just made a lot of mistakes that you can easily avoid just by like paying attention a little bit, and I really like that. Yeah, bro, Satyam, you definitely got to start playing TFT. Not gonna lie, I'm playing TFT right now. Okay, I'm first in the lobby. Right now. I got a pretty awesome team going. Honestly, business is a lot like a game of TFT. You just try to find the best units to add to your team, and you switch them around if you need to. You try to play to your advantages. That's like your augments. And yes, you can get lucky, just like in business. You can get lucky and you can hit all the champions you want. It's a lot like business, man. I'm not going to lie. So it's a good one. Look at my Katarina just going off right now. Oh, can she do it? Yes. Let's go. I'm trying to climb. I'm trying to rank up. I only play ranked. I know a lot of you guys probably don't care about this, but yeah, I got the Darius dunk set up right now. Okay, I'll just stream it for 1 second and then I'll stop because I know it's probably boring. But I'm trying to get lucky here. I guess we can go with. Oh man, all these items suck. So, oh yeah, somebody asked if I know any trusted supplier for an ad account, agency ad account. Yeah, I actually have it linked in my description. Okay. See, this is what I mean by getting lucky. Like, you can just straight up get lucky and get a legendary champion. But look at, so this is something really interesting. I took late game specialist. This is called investing in your future right here. This is an augment that when I reach level 9, I get a ton of gold. I'm level 8 right now, so I've been trying to save up a little bit so that when I reach level 9, I'm gonna come up big time and hopefully get first. So that's what's going on right now. It's I really like TFT because it's a little more chill than like regular League of Legends, and I think it is a little more cerebral. It's kind of like you're putting together a team. It's a little bit like a game of chess in a way, but it's like chess and a casino. If you put chess and a casino put together, that's why it's a lot of fun. It's like gambling, but without any of the downside. It's kind of fire. But yeah, so I'm trying to, now I'm just going to chill, wait for level 9. But okay, so somebody asked, how do agency accounts work? The way that they work is a little bit, it's a little bit sus. I'm not going to lie. I don't like the premise of agency accounts. I feel like you should always try to own your assets. I think it's much better if you just own your assets than if you rent them. But obviously, if it's your last resort, then just do it. Just do it. But the way they work is basically some people out there, they have great connections at Meta and they're able to get access to accounts that they can just add you to. And I mean, yeah, that's basically how it works. Like, it's actually pretty simple, I guess. But the reason why I say it's sus is because you don't own those accounts. So at any point they could go down, and then, if your business relies on ads, then you're just totally screwed. And that's obviously not what you want. You want to make sure that you're safe. I don't like it, but it's obviously something that a lot of people can use and need because they're not able to get access to their own ad accounts. And that sucks. But always try to own your own ad account. If you know a relative that maybe can give you access to their Facebook account and create a business manager where they can give you access, that's also a good idea. But so you ask, is it more stable for scaling? No, it's not, because sure, okay, first of all, the results are not going to be much different than just a regular account. And it's not more stable because at any point it can literally get taken down. But you can then just buy another one, which is fine. But I still don't think it's the best idea. If you can avoid needing an agency ad account, do it. It's basically my piece of advice here. But, otherwise, like I said, try to get your own accounts. Try to own your assets as much as possible.
Not just the power of entrepreneurialism, but actually how much, especially in the technology industry, we're not entitled to our future success. So when I first started at Google, it was a couple hundred employees, give or take, maybe a little more, but a small company, one building in Mountain View. And when we grew up enough that we moved to a few neighboring buildings and eventually needed a corporate campus. And rather than building one, we bought Silicon Graphics campus. It was right next door, and Silicon Graphics was going out of business. It was really interesting because when you move into another company's corporate campus, when you first move in, it sort of has all of their branding and paraphernalia is still there. So you're walking through sort of the carcass of a company that was once great, enough to have that campus that you just moved into. And then later in my career, when I joined Facebook, they acquired a social network I made, We were in one building and eventually grew up, and we needed a campus. And instead of building one, we moved into Sun Microsystems' old campus.
Ah.
And it was just really interesting because both Silicon Graphics and Sun Microsystems at one point were like the top of the stock market, the, shining star of the technology industry. And that was like when I was graduating from university, like not that much earlier than these moments. And it had a real impact on me that, like, you're sort of walking through the halls of a company that built this, amazing campus in the heart of Silicon Valley. And both of them, ended up selling it for pennies on the dollar to the next company that was sort of graduating there. And it really, to me, it just had this impact, which is like, no matter what success we've had for the previous decade, we are not entitled to success in the future decade. And just the half-life of technology companies is actually quite short. There's really relatively few exceptions. I guess IBM and Microsoft and, that have been around for.
That's actually interesting. That's something I never considered, is like the tech companies, their shelf life is actually kind of short. That makes sense because technology advances so fast that it's very hard to keep up with the times and innovate, especially when you build like a huge tech stack and you have like a bloated company and it's hard to like pivot. I think with e-commerce, or at least like physical products, I think that's where maybe it's an advantage to have physical products, because obviously it's kind of the same thing actually, because you still need to continue to innovate, and like physical products become obsolete just as fast as like any technology. But still, I feel like people get attached to physical products, and that could be seen as an advantage. What do you guys think?
For a reasonably long period of time, IBM in particular, but there's not that many. And I think it's always good to remind ourselves of that, because that sense of urgency that all of us have in the early days of our company, if you end up losing that, it's almost a near certainty that you'll suffer the same fate, which is kind of crazy. But also I find it really energizing, because I love the kind of creative destruction. I love the sense of urgency that drives, but it had a huge impact on me.
Yeah, that's it must have felt a little bit like I sometimes think about like what people in the Middle Ages thought when they sort of came across Roman ruins, where like it's like like we don't even have the technology to create these things anymore, and like I don't know what it inspired, but it sounds pretty inspiring to try to get back to like former glories. I do find and the cities we built today, or maybe I shouldn't say this. I got to spend a little bit of time in Rome with my family, and maybe we actually haven't improved on the practice of building cities. It's just a remarkable place.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is also like, we can talk about company building for absolutely ever. It is. There's no end of interesting topics related to it, right? Like it's. And I think partly because it is so organic, right? Like like a company in Silicon Valley is exposed to completely different fitness functions than a company outside of it, and a company in retail is completely different from a restaurant. And like there's a thing about what's wonderful is when companies work. There's always luck involved and timing and all these kind of things, because without this doesn't work. But like, some ideas were important to the success, and some ideas are not. And it's funny because I'm not sure it's clear which ones are which. But like it seems like after through the initial success, you then spend the next decade kind of trying to sort them into two different buckets, and I think you can only be like, hopefully you get the majority right. But I think, back to your point from earlier, being extremely good at putting process in place after something goes wrong is probably not part of the core expertise of companies that worked. In fact, I have a funny hypothesis that there is no good process in the world, and this always terribly upsets my coworkers. But it turns out like whenever process is good, it actually gets renamed. I don't know if you've ever noticed this. It's like it's always been the expense process, but like to submit code is like a pull request. Like it's also a process. It just got renamed, right? Like and
I was wondering if you
it's
could handle 25% of the engineer developers use for their own tools on other parts of humanity. We might fix all the world's problems. So.
Yeah. Well, good. You mentioned Google Maps earlier. Like, I should know this, but like, you were an engineer on that team, weren't you? Like, did that or Generalist or how did that work?
It's a complex fitness. I'll tell you the short history. So,
because it's just because sorry, and the reason is, man, like that was like an important product in internet history. Like you were like, yes, let's make this really good and make the maps drag around. But there was like a before and after. Like this was like, okay, the web browsers can do things that we don't fully appreciate yet. Moment.
Yeah, it was interesting ingredients that led to it. So the story of Google Maps was we had at Google, I was a product manager for a product called Google.
Sorry, before I continue to let him talk about his experience at Google Maps, look at this board value right here. For those of you that play TFT, 2-star Aatrox is a legendary champ. 2-star Ari, that's this girl's name. Yep. That's pretty crazy. Let's see if I can get lucky and hit a 2-star Scion. Nope. Okay. So the way this game works is you need 3 of the same units to create a 2-star version of them, and 3 2-star versions of them, so 9, to create a 3-star version of them. But yeah, my advice is just to go with personal ad accounts, even with TikTok. Yeah, for sure, bro. I definitely think so. I mean, I just don't see why you would prefer to like rent an asset, right? Okay, somehow I still got stomped, so that's not fun. Okay, I really need the Scion. Oh no. Okay. All right, so I'll go like this and get this guy in here.
Google Local, which essentially integrated Yellow Pages listings into Google search. So you could find local businesses in addition to web pages. It was an okay product. It kind of had a Me Too. There was a product called Yahoo Yellow Pages. It was somewhat ubiquitous at the time. And
okay, let me move this out of the screen so we can actually hear this guy. I want to pay attention. Meta ads are for sure king. I mean, Google ads are cool. Or sorry, TikTok ads are good, but it's not as stable as Meta. Meta just has the best machine learning. I mean, they've been building it for over a decade now. It's just a superior product, man. It really is. Wow. Okay, you guys saw that board value, right? Still somehow I got third. Sad. But that was fun.
I wouldn't say the product was particularly differentiated. So we launched the first version of it, and we spent a lot of time just talking about how do we produce something way more powerful than the competitors, because we had kind of made a first version that looked a lot like a lot of our competitors, and really thinking like, what are directions we can take this that are significantly more powerful. We started anchoring on the map. We had licensed from a company called MapQuest, which you have to be our age to even remember MapQuest. But we put a little MapQuest tile next to the search results. It was really ugly, and we said, "Wow, just imagine if you really anchored the whole experience on mapping." By coincidence, there was these 2 Danish engineers named Lars and Jens Rasmussen who were building a Windows app called Expedition. That was a mapping application. Even in 2003 or 4, whenever this was, no one was funding a company building a Windows app. So they had trouble getting anyone to like return their calls. They were referred to us by one of our investors, I think, and we ended up meeting them and sort of doing an acqui-hire of that company. And it was actually turned out to be the biggest blessing in the world that what they came in with was a Windows app, because it could do all of these things that you couldn't do in a web browser. Mm-hmm. So the reason we acquired them is we loved the look of the maps. Lars and Jens just were mapping obsession, like they were just obsessed with maps. But all of a sudden, the watermark of what we wanted to achieve in the browser was so much higher of a standard than I think we would have set naturally. So if it weren't for the fact that like Jens felt so strongly about doing this in Windows, I don't know. Yeah, I can't say with a straight face that we would have had the ambition to go as far as we did in stretching the browser as far as we did. And then it was, there was a lot of other ingredients at Google. Gmail was in development or had come out kind of around then. And there's a lot of people in the very early days of pushing web pages to become web applications, to make them truly interactive, to make them so you didn't need to refresh the page to interact with them. So there was a crew of 4 or 5 of us who were just like really, really deep on this stuff. And I was technically a product manager, but no one else knew JavaScript. So I just moonlighted and wrote all of the JavaScript for it. And it was just so incredibly fun because we'd crash the browser and then go talk to the members of the Firefox team. We had a lot of them working at Google at the time. And, they'd open up the browser and the debugger and we'd figure out what we were doing. And we were just testing parts of the browser code base that had literally never been exercised before. And it was just an incredibly thrilling thing. And then, as you said, one of the achievements I'm most proud of is just changed web applications. The term AJAX, which I don't know if it's used anymore, came into vogue. Even sending data over as JavaScript, which we did, is now known as JSON, which was not named at the time. It was just very efficient to call eval on a blob of JavaScript while we did it. And so it ended up having sort of a outsized impact. I love Google Maps, obviously, to this day, but I think it created a lot of the sort of Web 2.0 companies that invested in interactivity. Many of them tell me they were sort of inspired by some combination.
Whoa, interesting how he references Web 2.0 companies. That makes me think that these guys are thinking more and more about Web 3 than they care to reveal. You gotta pay attention and listen, read between the lines, guys. Read between the lines.
Of Google Maps and Gmail and all of that. There was a lot of different ingredients. You had a company that had a lot of people tinkering with the technology, which was important because it just meant you had colleagues to walk over to and say, how did you approach this problem? How did you approach this problem? And then the thing that I love is, Lars and Jens' silly Windows app ended up making our standards so impossibly high that we hit them. And I just wonder, had we not, I know we wouldn't have obviously built it without them, but I also wonder even if they had started in the browser, I think our standards would have ended up too low and we might not have done what we did.
That's fascinating. Right? It's like, because, man, I don't know if is that story really well told outside of...
I'm not sure it is. Lars and Jens and I are still friends, and I think Lars has done some interviews about it. I should tell it more. It's
a great story. It's a great story partly because it's every time you're doing something, like the first decision you have to make is actually, are you going for, like, are you just making another instantiation of what everyone's doing in the Overton window, or are you trying to go do better? If you decide to do better, you have like 3 choices ahead of you, right? Like you can try to make something perfect. That's hard. You can try something that's like attempting to asymptotically approximate perfection, or you try something very, very quickly that just needs to be better than what other people are doing. Doing a lot of work in the sentence. It's like like engineering culture, hacker culture, corporate culture is very good at the third. I think it's very obvious when people go for the second. which is sort of more like the Apple, sort of Steve is the best example of that. Although he might even be somewhere between 1 and 2. And then 1 you never hear about because that never ships. Like, so it doesn't matter. Like, lots of people go, like, it's like the funnel is like a wall. Like, it's lots of people go in, no one comes out.
It's really helpful to have a North Star, I think, because I think engineering can end up very iterative if, and you can end up on local maxima for what you're trying to achieve for your customers. It's remarkable how often, given a really concrete goal, like we're going to go to the moon before the Soviet Union, or, we're going to, in a much smaller capacity, we're going to make, this draggable maps thing work in a web browser. It's when the goal is so unbelievably clear and you have, single-minded engineers running towards that, it's remarkable. I think it's why I really believe in all developers spending some time with customers, because what I find is that it makes the goals of the product more clear to the people building them, which often leads to much more obvious and acute solutions than the typical translation between sales, product management, engineering. And if you cut out a lot of the middlemen and you have people spend time with often you can end up with like much stronger, much more clear-minded goals and much more elegant technical solutions to many problems.
Yeah. Partly because if you communicate through a channel, especially about product requirements, you're basically, I mean, the only thing that'll end up making it through there is like the highly quantifiable bits or the things that can be sloganized. But like often the things worth solving are kind of unquantifiables. In fact, like often the solutions that people suggest make it through, but it's actually the problem that needs solving that's interesting. And the problem, I think, for Google Maps was clearly that people just kind of got lost. So the maps were just not good or not available in the right form factor.
Yeah, I mean, I like Apple Maps better, not gonna lie. That's an unpopular opinion, but Apple Maps is just a cleaner UI in my opinion, and it just pairs better with my phone,
or like couldn't route or like GPS and all these kind of things. And so it's a fascinating story in general when the it makes you think like just all the limits are really like imagined, like they're made up. It's like there is no speed limit on or there is no quality limit. It's just like kind of safer to go like one step past what people are doing right now. There's probably less competition for just knocking it out of the park because no one else is trying. So if lower likelihood of success, but like if you can do it, it's what you really believe. I mean, everything changes.
It really does, and actually. It took us almost 47 minutes to get here, but it is a good AI segue just because we
were trying to be really good about this. Like I spotted like 5 possible jumping points, and I just like let them pass by because I knew there was no problem with getting there at some point.
Well, you talked about just like it's the opportunity to knock things out of the park. I do think that we're at a point of a significant inflection point with technology. And just like when before and after the web browser or before and after the mobile phone, building products that are native to that platform is very different than, adding some features and functions. I think we're definitely at that point now with large language models and AI. And I think the opportunity to, as you sort of describe the different ways of approaching product innovation, I think there's an opportunity to like really reimagine some product experiences in ways that customers and consumers just, absolutely love, that are just completely different form factors than we had before. Because the way I think about it is large language models and these foundation models are essentially opened the door to natural language understanding and conversational interfaces that actually work. And I think that's a meaningful milestone, just because, it's the only interface to computers that you don't need to teach anyone about. It opens the door, obviously, to generating text and images dynamically, which I think is incredibly powerful. It also just opens the door to basic human level reasoning with computers. And I think computers to date have been conditional statements, if this, then that. The idea that you can give a computer a goal and some guardrails and have it achieve that goal is, I still haven't completely wrapped my head around it, to be perfectly honest with you. And anyway, I've never been more excited to be in our industry as a consequence. It's pretty
Have you so you have seen again like all these transitions, right? Like you again the 90s of before Netscape times, like maybe.
I honestly can't imagine being like these guys have experienced the business world in all of its different, like the online business world and all its evolutions. I can't imagine that like at the beginning of Amazon, at the beginning of Google, to where we are now. It's just been such an exponential growth curve. And I think it's only it technically is still kind of the beginning. So their perspective is so interesting. And, the way they view the world is just so different than the way we view the world, just because of our limited experience. They've actually seen it all unfold, whereas we just it's second nature to have Google, it's second nature to have, it's probably how it's going to be for Gen Z with like ChatGPT or whatever the next generation is after that. They're probably, AI is going to be second nature to them. It's kind of crazy to think about.
Maybe even some. And then we had a web browser, and sort of like it had marquee and images. Images were controversial in the beginning of the internet, right? And then we got Web 2.0, which really like Google Maps and Gmail really showed us a way. And then I was on the other side trying to make frameworks to make it easier for people to partake. And so we all contributed. And then of course, mobile phone, on the internet, you can maybe even say SaaS might actually be a little bit like one of those technology shifts, because that was we understood the economic engine by which software is delivered in a way that leads to better software and better and happier customers. And so these are all shifts, and they're all huge. And then comes AI. Like which one of those does this compare the most to?
I've thought a lot about this. If I
That's a
had
good
to
question.
pick one, but I'll tell you all the reasons why I find it really challenging to compare. But I'd probably pick the advent of the browser. And the reason why I think that is, I think it's more disruptive than the move to mobile was. I think as much as we had to refactor our applications for a touch interface, often the value proposition of the application was similar. Obviously, new applications emerged like Uber and WhatsApp and others. I don't mean to minimize those, but as an example, I think Shop Pay is the best mobile shopping experience. But Shop Pay would have existed before; it just would have been a different experience. It's just you're taking advantage of natively embedded payments and all the affordances of a mobile device. The emergence of the browser was interesting because it wasn't just that you had client-server applications before. I mean, just delivering an application via web browser really required completely rethinking. The idea you put in a URL rather than getting a box of software from Fry's Electronics. I mean, you could not be more different in the way you deliver software. I couldn't tell you the straight face. I know how AI will evolve, except that AI has the ability to integrate with, tens or hundreds of different services and synthesize that information and take actions on your behalf. And it has the ability to, reason through things like you might do yourself and do it on your behalf. There's so many things that computers can do now that were literally science fiction just a handful of years ago. I have a feeling we'll look back on this a bit like the late 90s, where we'll get a lot of hype and a lot of bad companies like pets.com was in the late 90s, but we'll also get companies of the stature of Google and Amazon and some of the big ones that came out of the first internet wave. And then similarly, the companies that sort of embraced this trend wholeheartedly will really benefit in outsized ways. The reason the analogy kind of breaks down is I think if you look at those trends, they've all layered on each other. It's the internet was invented and then the browser was built on the internet. And then when the iPhone came out and then Android a couple years later, the internet existed. So the Safari web browser on your iPhone had things to access already. And now there's about 2 billion PCs. There's about 6 billion smartphones, I think. So basically one per person in the world. There's, I think, even like if you take like the children out of it and all that, like we've more or less connected the world with the smartphone. And so now you have the whole world connected on the internet, and now you have AI on top of that. And AI, unlike the smartphone, is software, not hardware. So the friction of distributing the technology to all of those 6 billion connected people is, the cost is zero, essentially, from a distribution cost standpoint. So as a consequence, I think, I remember in the early days of the internet, you kind of had to be in the know, and there was BBS and all these things where you'd go learn about the new tips and tricks. The reason why it feels almost overwhelming with interest and hype and anxiety around AI is all of us can just go to, ChatGPT and start using it now. And I don't think we've quite conceptualized just how fast these new technology waves can be adopted. And I think as a consequence, it feels different, even though there are some analogs in history as well.
Yeah, I guess I don't have this thought through terribly rigorously, but you raise this really interesting point there. These transitions we talked about, almost all of those are a delivery innovation, right? At the end of the day, all of them, mobile web browsers, Web 2, kind of making things a little bit better, are mechanisms by which it's now more convenient and easier to access the thing that is running on a computer somewhere that's doing something more really, really valuable. But what computers do that's valuable is really been basically run, software algorithms and databases.
Durable storage with some logic on top.
Exactly. That's I don't know, when Shopify first got written up, they launched in beta, this is around the time the website TechCrunch launched too, and comments were all wow, but that's just a CRUD database. And that stung a little bit, but it wasn't incorrect. It's correct. It's kind of yes, that's kind of, wouldn't you have imagined that CRUD databases are kind of pretty valuable for the users. But I guess what AI is it's now a completely new thing running on machines. So all the surfaces are now benefiting from this, and at the end of the day, it's we can utilize something that some people would describe as intelligence now in software, which I don't think we could before. This is why we had things like Mechanical Turk and so on, so that we could access intelligence.
It is really interesting, and especially I think even the short term is very interesting, because one is the cost to serve of artificial intelligence. Modern large language models is non-trivially high. So I think that's really interesting, because traditionally, if you think about the cost of rendering a web page or serving a GraphQL query to, a mobile app is, relatively free, in the grand scheme of things. I think the cost of, executing particularly large models is a non-trivial expense, which changes the dynamic a bit. Similarly, they're probabilistic, not deterministic. And I think that's really interesting, because traditionally, so much of the applications we've built have been rules, and you file a bug if something goes wrong and you fix the bug. And to some degree, inside of a software organization, your job is to make it as deterministic as possible. I mean, you don't really say it that way, but that's fundamentally the job of, a lot of teams, particularly those maintaining the platform that you have. Even the most powerful models and the most simple questions will be wrong some percentage of the time. And I think that's okay because most humans are wrong some percentage of the time, and most things AI will displace or replace or augment, is certainly not perfect by any means, but it's a very uncomfortable thing. And so both the way you interact.
True, but I think that's kind of what's cool about AI is like even if it's wrong, you can like continue to have it iterate until it's right, which is really cool. And also, it just feels like that's going to be really OP in the future. I mean, it already kind of is, to be honest.
Interact with these. I actually was talking to a researcher at OpenAI, who's a friend of mine, that we were having a beer, and he said, today, half the code I wrote was English because he was basically prompt engineering. And he said, I just could not have imagined this, even a handful of years ago. The way we engage with this technology is different. The way our customers will engage with it and just the naturally probabilistic nature, i.e. errors will happen, and that's just part of the technology. I'm just excited because I've never seen a technology that was simultaneously more powerful yet so hard to reason about with the frameworks we had to reason about software before, which is why I was so excited to become an entrepreneur again, just because I always have a sort of a life philosophy. If there's a really hard, interesting problem, it's a lot more interesting and fun to be a part of it and to like experience the nuances of it than to be on the sidelines. And so that's why I jumped back in.
I couldn't agree more. You invoked that it was important. Like I think at every one of those transition periods, it was important that there's places of tinkering, basically, for lack of try to make that sound better than it is, but like it's actually just like kind of people doing like the blue collar part of innovation. It's like it's like when we didn't have web browsers, we used Telnet.
We actually going on outside in the office right now. One of our researchers is doing a paper review, so going over an interesting research paper. But similarly, like for every researcher publishing a paper on, parameter efficient tuning or something really clever and advanced, there's a hacker on GitHub running an open source model and is fully automated his or her life with agents. And it's just as interesting. Yes. And it's because that, it's moving so fast. And I love that expression, like the blue collar part of innovation. It's so remarkable to me that in the morning you could read a paper from a Princeton PhD student, and then in the afternoon be reading a GitHub repository of someone who automated their life with an open source model, and they might have equal amount of insight into the future of artificial intelligence. It's amazing.
I love this. I really, really do think it's you need the cathedral and the bazaar, and you kind of we almost didn't have that. Like I just this got really like we should all like be really, really thankful for that. I mean, at some point this came down to Zuck and like making a choice. Yeah, that was probably against like that was inconvenient for him, and probably he needed to like accept significant personal risk there, like because it was deeply like Facebook is like Facebook. Like if you think you like as a technology company, you're somewhat curtailed. Like there's no company as observed and watched and potentially maligned as Meta. Yet they have given us basically everything for free that is like used to do modern AI with PyTorch and these kind of things, and they deserve a lot more credit. Shout out to Mark. But like now we have Llama models, and with that, like this is my like I'm gonna tell you, I get up, I get on my phone, I get on the GitHub application, which is like crazy. That's my, and I'm going through the pull requests of 5 projects on GitHub. That is where the action is today. Yeah. Like now, next week that might be different, or maybe in a month this is different again. But like the degree of innovation is incredible, and the papers are coming my way throughout the day through Twitter or messages of people who know that I'm into this kind of stuff. And it's just like I just find this absolutely fantastic. I love everything about it. It's I did not think there's going to be another golden age. of computing. But like we are definitely in the middle of a golden age right now, and it's like super. It's actually humbling. It's like
Yes.
what's our role in this going to be? And it's like really really fun to like in the evenings like tinker on these kind of things. We have such an amazing opportunity here around our mission, and it's super exciting.
It is. I couldn't agree with you more.
We'll see how Shopify stock reacts tomorrow to these news.
And I love how unpredictable
Brett
it is.
Taylor
I
joining
love
the board.
It's hard for me to predict the experiences I'll be using like a year from now. It's fun to be in the vantage point. I mean, just segueing a little bit back to Shopify, I loved the AI augmented chat you put out in the shop app, but I also just think that as a platform provider, you're in a unique position to give this technology as a building block to all your merchants and all of their consumers in ways that you can't just do as a product company. And so it's actually doubly exciting when you have a platform as broad as the one that you have, because I think you'll end up being the vehicle by which hundreds of thousands, if not millions of companies first bring AI into their business. And that's a pretty cool opportunity.
Yeah, it's a cool opportunity. And it's also like, I mean, the mission of Shopify is like to like we want to make entrepreneurship easier. And like this is why I'm like so excited about this. I think the mission is somewhat like we got a lot of the good bits out of the previous technology paradigm. We built a very good piece of software. I think it's constantly getting better, and like certainly I'm aware of all its flaws, but like we're working on them. And but there is a ceiling, and that ceiling has opened, because what people actually want is like, my God, like how much of entrepreneurship is not governed, not prevented by regulations or lack of funding, or like it's like what people like, man, you can have we can give everyone a infinitely patient, deeply competent, knowledgeable, permanently hardworking sidekick to their hero's journey, like right there, which can like answer the questions, take over toilsome tasks, and like if everyone gets to start out with that, that's like, I mean, that is something that right now only like very few privileged people have access to, and like I'm really really. I love what entrepreneurship does. It's like it's important everywhere. It's more important in the sort of less economically fortunate places. And one thing that the previous software paradigm has done is like it's provided incredible value to everyone on planet Earth. But like there's sort of like the fortunate billion and then the less fortunate rest. And I think in general what AI can do is I think act as a great equalizer is maybe not the right word, but like the value is just going to be accrues to everyone exactly in the same way, because it's like it meets everyone where they are, and because everyone can communicate with their thumbs at this point. We've literally trained planet Earth for this moment. Well,
it's interesting you bring that up. I don't know if you had this experience, but my grandparents, they never got a PC, but they did get iPads. And it was interesting just that it wasn't just Apple's product design, but just the form factor of a touch interface was so much more intuitive that was the first computer that I think they just felt comfortable using. And it was great because before they passed away, I got to send emails, and they were really connected to me digitally in a way that they weren't before. Now, as you said, talk about a great equalizer. Everyone can talk, and or most people can talk, and most people can some combination of talk, type, communicate in natural language. And I think that's incredible, because you've essentially removed all the gatekeeping aspects of technology. You don't need to learn how to use a mouse and keyboards. You don't even need to learn the rules of the system, which are often opaque. And so much of using a computer, even easy to use ones, is understanding all these idiosyncratic things that have accumulated over the years. And I think it'll take a while to get there, but I think we'll very quickly get to the point where using the interface we use to communicate with each other, we can communicate with supercomputers in the cloud that are doing powerful things on our behalf. And I just find that incredible. I think people who have been on the sidelines of, digital for a long time can take advantage of it. It'll be less intimidating, as you said, infinitely patient, not judgmental. I was talking to an entrepreneur who has a language translation application, and they were reflecting that people prefer the automated version because it's not judgmental. It won't judge you for your poor accent or not knowing the vocabulary. And I was just thinking, the psychology of this is really fascinating. It's infinitely patient, not judgmental. I just think it could be incredible to onboard huge amounts of society onto all the technology platforms we've benefited from.
Yeah, and I think this is one thing that is often I think missed, because I think all of us in technology are coming across deep criticism of AI, and sort of this sort of quasi-religious thought experiments around where this will lead, which I find are interesting albeit, but kind of disruptive if they leak too far from those venues, because they are just interesting thought experiments, and at least my opinion. And when you talk to people in places that some people call flyover country, I'm currently in rural Ontario here, and I asked the locals about, hey, ChatGPT, is that a thing? It's I love it. You guys fix computers. They finally do the thing that you always saw. I've heard you guys talk about computers, and I went to try them, and they didn't do any of those things that you guys claimed. Suddenly, finally, they do the thing that you guys are claiming. So it's that's so lost when everyone's like, oh, they are not deterministic, or they hallucinate, which, by the way, is how the hell did hallucinate stick? It's the funniest term. Anyway, it's a funny world in this way. But I think it's crazy to say this, but maybe it's underhyped still.
I know. I feel the same way. When I look back at these waves too, it's technology, it's user experience, it's also business model changes will happen too. And I look at Salesforce as an example. Somewhat famously, was delivered a CRM in the cloud via web browser, but also charged a subscription for it rather than perpetual license, which had a big impact on enterprise software.
Yes.
Both were really important, actually, when you think about why did Salesforce succeed and SaaS take off. I'm not sure we've even figured out all the new business models that will emerge from this too. And I think that when you have a technology sort of transition that is new experiences, new technical capabilities, and new business models, it might be underhyped. I mean, that's a lot of change. And it, generally speaking, when you have that much change, it opens the door for new companies against incumbents. It opens the door for entrepreneurs, and which is pretty exciting for all of your customers, and pretty exciting just as a lifelong software engineer too. I've never been in a moment like this.
That's awesome. Brett, thank you very much. This is a super fun conversation. Can't wait to have many more of those. And it's a privilege to have you on behalf of all Shopify. Welcome. Thanks for throwing in with us.
Shout out to Shopify.
You certainly could have picked anyone. So thanks for getting involved with this crazy company here. And I think that's just wonderful. And thanks for trusting us.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm incredibly proud to be associated with the Shopify brand, and excited to work with you and to meet everyone else at the company too.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Hey. Shout out to Brett Taylor. Welcome to the Shopify family. I don't even own Shopify stock, so I can't say that, but when I start buying it again, then I'll be able to say that, and it'll be, true. But for now, it's not. But that's cool. That's pretty damn cool. Who would have thought, man? Brett Taylor. Yo, what up, Cam? Welcome. One second, yo. Let's see. Do you plan to hedge fund it in ecom? What do you mean by that, bro? What do you mean by that? This is the big news. It's Shopify brought on a new board of director member. I mean, that may not mean a lot to a lot of you guys. It doesn't mean that much to me, but I think it's interesting. This guy's a very clever tech entrepreneur, so I think he'll provide a lot of great contributions to the company, which is always great. But yeah, kind of interesting. I mean, I didn't know. I wonder how this will affect the stock. I think it will make it pump tomorrow. We'll see. I think I'll stream tomorrow again, so we can watch it pump live, perhaps. That'll be really good. But, oh, buy already growing ecom brands and scale them. Yeah, bro. I mean, I'm not looking to buy any brands right now. I'm just trying to scale our brands. But no, they haven't. They actually did release one page checkout, but only to Shopify Plus members. That's kind of that's the caveat, is that it's only available to Shopify Plus members. But unfortunately, it's not available to the regular plan. And I don't know if it will be available to the regular plan ever, because Shopify just, they're trying to make money here. But let's see. Best way to start getting clients for an ecom agency? I mean, just DM people, bro. Like, I would say at first, like, if you have no skills, try to do some work for free. That's always not a bad idea, just to get the skills. They're gonna release it to all paid plans soon. Yeah, that's possible. They should, but I don't know if they will. I don't know why they wouldn't, though, honestly. It would only benefit their sellers, which if their sellers do good, then their stock does well. And if their stock does well, everybody's eating, including Brett Taylor now, who is a part of the board of directors. But let's see. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It makes sense that they would release it to everybody. It would make them more money. Would you ever consider going into different types of businesses when e-com gets more difficult, like manufacturing? For sure. I really think manufacturing is interesting, but I feel like that's even more difficult than e-com. So I don't really see. I mean, I feel like e-com is not the most difficult business model by any stretch of the imagination, bro. Couldn't the stock also go down because of a new board of directors member? Actually, yeah, it could. I mean, we'll see. I guess maybe that's probably what's most likely to happen, honestly, because everybody probably expects it to go up. And, you know, sometimes that makes things go down when it's just so obvious what's going to happen. Usually the opposite happens. But we'll see. I'm working on a, by the way, to everybody in this chat, I'm working on a way that you guys can make money. We're going Andrew Tate style with the Chemi Lab. So I'm actually putting together a little section in the Discord for affiliates. So if you want to join the team, you can. You just need to know how to repurpose content, and you're welcome to use all my content. I have like infinite content on YouTube, and you can use it to promote the Chemi Lab and make yourself some good money. Couldn't, yeah. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, manufacturing is interesting. Just, it honestly sounds way more difficult than e-com, in my opinion. But what I want to do, though, the way that I would get into manufacturing is by making connections with manufacturers. That's it. The only issue is your $20 plan. I mean, it's $500, so it's actually a pretty good commission. Okay. Damn, what the hell? Which one's the $20 plan? He's talking about the Shopify template. That's different. That's a different thing. It's just a template we sell. It's like basically just shows you where to plug in all your information to make it high converting. It's good value. It's just 20 bucks. You can go into all season products manufacturing plants like clothes and all get the products from suppliers. You can even sell the materials. I mean, I feel like a lot of manufacturers are actually arbitraging manufacturing from other manufacturers. The whole world is just one big arbitrage. Not really. You need connections with e-com brands to set up manufacturing is more difficult, meaning less competition and not 5,000 people on YouTube trying to lie with their courses. I mean, there's definitely plenty of people selling courses on manufacturing and like, or at least finding manufacturing plugs. I've seen a lot of that before, like people selling connections to manufacturers. Yeah. Damn. Whoa. Skaters of Web 3. God damn. Damn, this dude just got sentenced to death. Rip.
Shouldn't be a reason to not pursue no better life purpose. Nietzsche said, I know of no better life purpose than to perish in attempting the great and impossible. The fact that something seems impossible shouldn't be a reason to not pursue it. That's exactly what makes it worth pursuing. Where would the courage and greatness be if success was certain and there was no risk? The only true failure is shrinking away from life's challenges. Nietzsche said, I know.
God damn, that's a bar. Try not to laugh challenge. I don't know, bro. I don't know if I'd be good at that. Y'all are way too goofy for me not to laugh. Oh. Damn. Okay, I gotta change the... I gotta change the title of this stream. But okay, let me change it to something else. Aw, that's kind of cute. Bro, how have you like not caught on to the agency account thing? Like, you're starting to make me think there's no hope for you, bro. Damn, this gotta be the most embarrassing way to die. But also, I guess, kind of chill, in a way. Dude, just like, talk to the people in the agency account thing. Type in your information in the form. They'll reach out to you and you'll be able to... It's not my service, bro. So just talk to them. I promise you, they'll give you all the information you need. And more, probably. Okay. Nice. You understand. That's good. What do you think about becoming a Webflow developer as a beginner in business? I think it's a good idea. I think you can sell some Webflow landing pages for a pretty good amount of money. Some people pay a ridiculous amount for landing pages, so... This company's really cool. Cosmos. Damn, this is a good ad. They capitalized on this. This is a very viral post template. This like news cycle template. And yeah. Oh man, this coffee I feel like didn't do much for me. Let's peep some Shop Hunter stuff. How about... Okay, let me change the title of this stream. I mean, honestly, like the best way would probably be to start a new stream and just title it differently. I think that's what I'll do, actually. I'll just start a new stream. One last question? Sure, bro. What's your question? We're here to chill now. We got what we came here for, the content. I really need to fix the stream box. I want it to look better. This thing is kind of nice. Damn, this is a banger product. Yeah, this is Davy's tool. Dude, I'm sorry, Khaled, but like, I can't believe how many questions you've asked about agency accounts. Just go make a normal account and start running ads, bro. Like, that's all you need to do. If you need an agency, like if something goes wrong and you for some reason can't get another account, buy an agency account. That's literally all you need to know. And just go start your business, bro. You're way too hung up on the agency account thing. It's just a last, in my opinion, it's just a last resort thing. If you have like spend limit issues, if you're getting banned all the time, you could try an agency account. If you're not getting banned right now, if you have an account, then then don't get an agency account. Just run a normal account. That's why they charge money, because, you know, it's a service. Are you into biohacking? Yeah, I am into biohacking a little bit. Like, I like the longevity niche. I think it's a good one. You know, I take some supplements and things like that. I try to exercise every day. Man, they really gotta add... They gotta add dark mode to this. Ooh, trending ads. Bali Body, they're still going. These guys are legends. With this face tanner thing. That's wild. Crazy. This is a pretty legendary brand. Okay, I'll take a little break. I may start another stream up with a different title so that this one can get categorized, you know, so people can watch this one if they want to watch it and not be confused with the title and everything. But yeah, so I'll go take a break and maybe I'll come back and stream some more and change the title. I'll do something else. That's a good idea. I like that. All right, so yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that little video with Toby Lütke and Brett Taylor, the new Shopify board member. I thought it was quite interesting. There's a few takeaways for me personally. I liked his perspective on the whole AI movement and how he compared it to the late 1990s.com bubble, in which there was a lot of shitty companies that came out of it, but also some very stellar ones. So for me, like investment wise, that just, you know, it makes me want to buy more Microsoft stock, because Microsoft bought OpenAI, and I feel like they're the ones doing a lot. OpenAI is probably one of those companies that are gonna be massive in like 10-20 years. So I think that's pretty great. And I thought that was interesting. I also thought it was interesting how he referenced it as Web 2 companies. That makes me believe that that a lot of these bigger players are definitely interested in the Web 3 game. So that makes me want to buy more Bitcoin as well, and Ethereum, but mainly Bitcoin. $3 a.m. over there? You're crazy. It's called Trend Rocket. Go to bed, Satyam, bro. That is way too late. Wow, this cage match is really gonna go down. Alright, guys. I may stream again a little later, so for some of you guys,